Good morning. I'm Catherine Vaccaro, and I welcome you to the First Unitarian Church of Orlando. I'm a member of the congregation, and among other things, a facilitator of UU Wellspring, our year-long spiritual deepening program here at 1U. With me today in the service are Music Director Aubrey, Connelly-Candelario, Alison, Issen, Sandra Cawthorn, and Lisa Marie Matyas Steinmiller. We welcome all to join us as we explore our Unitarian Universalist faith, which draws us Thank you. Which draws us into a community of justice seekers with a commitment to lifelong spiritual growth. Whoever you are, whoever you love, you are welcome here. You are welcome here, regardless of your color, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, age, physical or mental abilities, economic status, or religious background. Families, we are so delighted you are here. When we sing This Little Light of Mine, during the service, the children are welcome to meet our child care folks in the lobby. As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we are a non-creedal community, and we do not subscribe to a specific set of beliefs. We live by a covenant that encourages ethical behavior, affirms democracy, celebrates the worth of each individual, and unites us in a search for truth in meaning. Thank you. Closer, huh? The pro. For more information about our congregation, go to orlandouu.org or email welcometeam@orlandouu.org. We have one special announcement for you. There is a spot for you on the big red bus. Come to the 1U campus to donate blood. The Big Red Bus will be on our campus on Wednesday, July 27th from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. We need all blood types. Please go to oneblood.org to make an appointment. The link can be found in the weekly update. All other announcements are on slides before and after the service. All have links in the weekly update or on our website. Thanks again for being here in person or online. Let's get started.
We are a people of beauty by Kimberly Ann Tomzak Carlson. Recognizing the beauty around us and within us, in voice and spirit, we gather to light our chalice. May we savor the beauty of our abundance and diversity, always cherishing one another and our earth. May we remember to inhale the lushness in life, knowing that we are a people of beauty. Please say the words with me as we light the chalice. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, number 66 in the Gray Book, When the Summer Sun is Shining. The words will be projected on the screen.
The summer sun is shining over golden land and sea, and the flowers in the hedgerow welcome butterfly and bee. Then my open heart is glowing, full of warmth for everyone. And I feel an inner beauty which reflects the summer sun. When the summer clouds of thunder bring the long-awaited rain, and the thirsty soil is moistened and the grass is green again, then I long for summer sunshine, but I know that clouds and tears are a part of life's refreshment, like the rainbow's hopes and fears. In the cool of summer evening, when the dancing insects play, and in garden, street, and meadow linger echoes of the day, then my heart is full of yearning, hopes and memories flood the whole of my being, reaching inwards to the corners of my soul.
Good morning, dear friends. As much as I wanted to be with you this morning, unfortunately, a COVID infection keeps me from being there in person. But for our call to worship today, this is from Let Astonishment Be Possible by Reverend Gretchen Haley. Whatever you have come in anticipating, whatever you expect or worry for our world, for the future, for our lives, let it go. Make space in your heart to be surprised. Make room in your soul for a new story to take shape. Let astonishment be possible at this life that remains a miracle. Imagine here the bursting of joy, relentless and resilient, coming in waves, washing over us with music and story, silence, and still this dreaming together, being hope for each other and courage to believe in this new day dawning for us all. Our story for all ages today is from the Ojibwe legends of the first butterflies. Long ago, Spirit Woman gave birth to human twin babies. She relied on her animal friends to take care of them. All the animals loved the first human babies and did whatever they could to be helpful. The dog watched over them to keep them safe. They leapt to their feet if the babies cried, tail wagging. When they figured out what was bothering the babies, they set it right, or found someone who could. If flies were bothering the babies, the dog asked the spider for help, or jumped and snapped at the flies themselves, which made the babies laugh. If the babies were hungry, the dog ran to the doe who would provide them with milk, or the wolf who would bring them meat. When the babies were tired and cranky, the bird sang them lullabies to help them sleep. The beaver gave them baths, and they brought moss to cushion the babies' beds. When the babies were bored, the dog did their best tricks to amuse them. They rolled over and did flips in the air. They tickled the babies' noses with their tongue. When the babies settled down and rested, the dog took advantage of the quiet time until they were needed again. After a long time, the animals began to share their concern that the babies were not learning new skills as they should. They were not walking or running or playing on their own the way the animal babies did. They reviewed the babies' needs. "They are strong from the meat I bring them," said the wolf. "Every day they drink milk," said the doe. "They make great splashing at bath time," said the beaver. When Nanabush, who was half human and half spirit, came to visit, the animals shared their worries about the babies. Nanabush said, "You all have cared for these children so well that they have no need to do anything for themselves. All little ones need to sometimes reach out and try to get what they want and need, instead of always having it provided for them. I shall figure out a way to help the twins want to walk on their own." Nanabush traveled to the high mountains and asked the Great Spirit who created the world and all its creatures what to do to help the twins become more independent. The Great Spirit told Nanabush to search along the mountain slopes and to collect the sparkling stones he found there. He collected hundreds of stones of so many colors until he had a huge pile that he could barely carry. Nanabush stared at the stones, wondering how they could possibly help. He threw a few up in the air and caught them as they fell back towards him. He did this a few times. Finally, in frustration, he grabbed a huge handful and threw them towards the sky. This time, none of the stones came dropping back to him. He looked up in astonishment and saw that the stones had all been transformed into winged creatures of many colors and shapes. The beautiful creatures fluttered all around him, some landing on Nanabush's shoulders. These were the first butterflies. Nanabush led the butterflies back to the twins, who cooed and giggled with pleasure, waving their arms and stretching out their legs to the beautiful creatures. But the butterflies always stayed just out of reach from the twins' tiny hands. Finally, the babies were so determined to catch the butterflies, they began to crawl, then to walk, and soon were running. And to this day, it is very hard for children to catch a butterfly in their hands, but all are entranced by the fluttering colors of these delightful creatures. Please join me in singing our children to their activities with hymn number 118, "This Little Light of Mine."
started. I'm going to endeavor to get the microphone to where, does this work? Okay. Yes. Oh, joys and, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm 83.
'83 and going strong. I'm Patty Reynolds. As we make space for the joys and concerns of this congregation, I invite you to join in our communion of names if you are watching online. Please add the names of those who are on your heart this morning, whether due to joy or concern. If you're here in person, you may fill out a card at the welcome table and hand it to an usher to be read in the service. All can email your joy or concern during the week to joysandconcerns@orlandouu.org. Bob Patton would like to invite the church to share birthday cake for Ann Patton today at coffee hour, celebrating her 85th birthday. Yay! Ann says, I never dreamed I would get to live 85 years. What a great gift. What a great gift you are, Ann. I'm sorry to report Nancy Kelman is home COVID positive. Yeah. She says she's not terribly sick, just taking longer naps. Healing energy and cards are welcome. We also hold space for those who are sick in body, mind, or spirit, and including those in nursing homes or rehab facilities. Dale Steakley expects to be there another several weeks, and of course we remember Di Silkwood. In addition, we want to acknowledge the stress and grief engendered by so many attacks on our rights, which have increased in recent months. Our Unitarian Universalist call and activism for reproductive justice is to ensure that all people can make decisions and access health care according to their own values, which includes both having children and not having children. Our reproductive justice mandate also affirms that everyone has the right to bodily autonomy and to raise children in safe and sustainable environments. With this broader framework in mind, it's important that we also acknowledge the larger context of recent assaults on LGBTQIA equality, on voting rights, on racial justice, and the reversal of abortion access. These are all interconnected. They are part of a dangerous perspective that divides people into worthy and unworthy, with race, gender, sexual, and gender identity used as criteria to determine who should have access to resources and equal rights. This kind of thinking is explicitly rejected by our Unitarian Universalist principles and history, and we must join with other people of faith and goodwill across the country in the work of reversing this oppression today and every day.
from the Book of Awakenings by Mark Nepo.
No, you're right. We are very confused today.
Reading from the Book of Awakenings by Mark Nepo. We each carry within, like chromosomes, the minute aspects of everything that forms the universe. And so, the art of freedom becomes the necessary adventure of grasping the secrets that are everywhere in the open and stirring their aspects within us in such a way that we come alive, learning from the fish how to surface and dive, from the flower how to open and accept, from the stone how to crack and let light in, and from the birds that wings are more useful at times than brains. Rather than finding ourselves in everything, we are challenged daily to find everything in ourselves. Till being human is evolving inwardly in the likeness of everything, shaping ourselves to the wonders we find, until birds who have known this forever, we too make song at the mere appearance of light.
We invite you into the practice of generosity. Your financial support allows the many ministries of the First Unitarian Church of Orlando to thrive. You can make an offering online to support the many ministries of this congregation. Simply go to orlandouu.org and click the donate button in the upper right-hand corner. Send a check or send a text. You may support this month's Share the Plate partner, the Joy MCC Food Bank, by finding a link to their organization in our weekly newsletter. Please let us know you donated by dropping a line to Gabby, our program assistant.
The offertory music today is a piece by Holly Near. Holly Near is one of my personal heroes, and the song is a little odd even for her. This piece is, it's kind of follows the Marvel movie storyline of the eternal superheroes who have been planted on our world for generations and who come to life to save us. But in typical Holly Near fashion, at the end, we need to save ourselves. Can you call on your imagination as if telling a myth to a child? Put in the fantastical, wonderful, magical, add the romantic, the brave, and the wild. Once upon a time there was a power so great that no one could know its name. People tried to claim it and tried to conquer it. Always such arrogance ended in shame. Thousands of years would pass in a moment. Hundreds of cultures would come and go. Each generation with a glorious calling. Even then they were too busy to know. Then one day after 2 millennia, which after all is a small part of time, magical souls found their way out of nowhere to be on earth at the very same time. Let's all go, they called to each other. Even though H had arrived here alone, they promised to work in grace with each other to save the beautiful planet called home. There was no promise that they could save it, but how exciting to give it a try. If they each did one act with intention, complex life on Earth would not die. So they arrive in a spectrum of colors. The population on Earth did explode. Some threw themselves in front of disaster. Others slowly carried their load. Some adopted the lost and abandoned. Some tried to save the air and the seas. Some died as martyrs. Some lived as healers. Some bravely lived with the dreadful disease. They mingled among each class and culture. Not one of them could be identified. Together they altered just enough moments to help the lost and the terrified. And Earth went on for another millennium, and soon it's time for this song to end. The magical story of hope and of wonder invite you all to wake up and pretend to be fabulous creatures sent from the power, souls that have come with a purpose in mind to do one thing that will alter the outcome, and maybe together we can do it in time. Can you call on your imagination as if telling telling a myth to a child. Put in the fantastical, wonderful, magical, add the romantic, the brave, and the wild. The souls are coming back, the souls are coming back, the souls are coming back, the souls are coming back. Thanks, John.
My name is Alison Issen, and I am an awe junkie. Although I probably had earlier experiences, the first clear memory I have of what psychologist Abraham Maslow would have identified as a peak experience took place when I was about 5 or 6. Maslow defined peak experiences as a moment of awe, ecstasy, or sudden insight into life as a powerful unity, transcending space, time, and the self. For me, this took place on a summer evening at what was then called Salisbury Park on Long Island, where my mother had brought me to hear a piano concert. We were stretched out on a blanket, and as the sun set above me, I heard Rhapsody in Blue tumbling out of the small amphitheater, where it seemed to mix with the colors above me. I felt as if I were floating amongst the sounds and colors, and that is why I chose that piece for our musical meditation today. We humans seem to make somewhat similar sounds for emotional experiences that are quite different from each other. What is the sound that I might make for the experience on your left? To reorient myself here, is ah. The one I would make for the one on the right, I think, is ah. And for the one in the middle, ah. So the tonation ah can indicate fear, pain, or awe. Scientists who have studied awe as a cultural phenomenon have discovered that these sound responses seem to cross cultures, even in very remote societies. The word awe may derive from the Old Norse agrilege, which translates loosely to experiencing fright or terror, or from the ancient Greek word akos, meaning fear and pain. Early notions of awe were often linked to a combination of fear and reverence, such as Moses and the burning bush and Paul on the road to Damascus. Use of psychedelics among cultures both ancient and modern point toward the human drive to seek a state of awe, even if chemically induced. It was after thousands of years of human history that we began to see new meanings and understandings of awe, not attributed solely to religious experiences, and the identification of what could induce awe began to have more pleasant and positive connotations. Irish philosopher Edmund Burke was one of the first to talk about the experiences of awe through everyday experiences and differentiated it from an appreciation of beauty. Ralph Waldo Emerson and naturalist John Muir both explored experiencing awe through nature. And William James, considered the father of modern psychology, described awe as an immense elation and freedom as the outlines of the confining selfhood melt down, a shifting of the emotional center toward loving and harmonious affections, toward yes, yes, and away from no. From John Steinbeck in his book Travels with Charlie. The redwoods, once seen, leave a mark or create a vision that stays with you always. The feeling they produce is not transferable. From them comes silence and awe. One of my more recent big awe experiences occurred a few years ago when I took a solo trip to northern Arizona. During the final weekend, I went to the Grand Canyon for the first time, arriving mid-afternoon on a cool and sunny fall day. When I walked to the railing and saw this wonder stretched out before me, I burst into tears. That evening, I watched a long sunset filled with colors not usually seen in the sky. But the climax of this ongoing peak experience came the following morning. I drove in just before dawn to a light rain and heavy mist. I took the earliest shuttle to the farthest stop at the South Rim, called Hermit's Rest, and for the next 2 hours, I was completely alone as I explored the trails and vistas. As the rain stopped, the sun rose with pastel lighting burning off the mist. I was overwhelmed by the feeling that the universe had offered me a gift. And once I stopped any chatter in my head about safety and comfort, I was completely present to this sense of amazement. Now, awe was rarely thought as something that could or even should be studied or understood scientifically until the late 1990s, led by psychologist Dacher Keltner of Stanford University. According to the main researchers, 2 main conditions are needed to create a state of awe. 1, our encounter must be with something either perceptually or conceptually vast and transcendent. Number 2, the experience transcends our understanding of the world, which forces us to change our assumptions and accommodate the new information. After we started shooting humans into space, the concept of the overview effect was developed. The overview effect occurs when you are flung so far away from Earth that you become totally overwhelmed and awed by the beauty, fragility, and unity of our blue globe. It's the uncanny sense of understanding the big picture and of feeling connected to the intricate processes that compose our planet. Astronauts who have viewed Earth from space have reported this to be a transformative experience, which altered some of their life trajectories in profound and unexpected ways. The astronauts Alan Bean and Nicole Stott became artists, and this is one of Alan Bean's works. Edgar Mitchell founded the Institute of Noetic Science, which studies consciousness. Ron Garan started the philanthropic group called Fragile Oasis. And André Kuipers, who is a Dutch astronaut, founded Spacebuzz, which teaches the overview effect to children 9 to 11 to help them become Earth ambassadors. Now, I am a research nerd, but I'm going to spare you the details of the dozens of studies that have been done about awe in the last 25, 30 years and just kind of give you a summary of what has been discovered. Evolutionary psychologists posit that all emotions have adaptive functions and are not merely the result of social learning. From this standpoint, every emotional response that we can feel has been tailored throughout our evolution to improve our chance of survival. So why awe? How does the experience of awe help us to survive? The research has shown over and over, awe strengthens our social connections. Awe makes us kinder and more generous. Awe fosters a sense of curiosity about the world. Awe diminishes reliance on preconceived assumptions. Awe increases humility and decreases self-centeredness, but not in a way that diminishes our self-worth. Awe can improve overall mood and our sense of well-being. Physically, awe significantly lowers levels of inflammatory chemicals in our body. Awe activates the brain regions that are associated with interpersonal bonding and the release of oxytocin. Awe diminishes activity in what's called the default mode network of our brain, which is linked to mind-wandering, rumination, and negative self-judgment. A quote from Betty Smith, who wrote, "A Tree Grows in Brooklyn." Look at everything, always, as though you were seeing it either for the first or last time. Thus is your time on earth filled with glory. So I hope I've convinced you a little bit that seeking to increase our experiences of awe is worthwhile to each one of us as individuals and to our society as a whole. But trips to the Grand Canyon or great cathedrals of Europe are few and far between, or completely unavailable to many of us. Can we seek smaller and more regular experiences of awe in our everyday lives? The poet W.B. Yeats writes, "The world is full of magic, things patiently waiting for our senses to grow stronger." For me, the gift of a camera about 5 years ago helped me seek out and pay more attention to the opportunities to experience awe that were all around me. More than half of the humans on Earth live in cities, and this will increase to 2/3 by 2050. In the United States, the average person spends greater than 90% of their time indoors, yet 3/4 of people describe their experience of awe as taking place outdoors in natural settings. If we do the math, this means they're getting very few experiences of being out there and experiencing that. We can develop the habit of awe even in our urban and suburban environments. For example, bring awe into your workspace through photos, mementos, screensavers. Take detours with different, more scenic routes. Be aware of and resist hedonic adaptation, which is our brain's tendency to get used to even amazing things when they become very familiar. Stretch beyond your comfort zone and your zone of familiarity. And the natural world is not the only source of awe in our lives. We can experience awe when witnessing or studying the courage and inspiration of public figures who lead us and sacrifice for humanity, of humans who risk and push limits, both physical and ideological, and our personal heroes. We can experience awe through science and technology. Watch any series developed by David Attenborough. Research more deeply a topic that fascinates you. Look at the world through new lenses, microscopes, telescopes, binoculars, snorkel masks. Think of the improbability of this Goldilocks planet that we live on, where somehow the geologic soup combined to be just right and allowed life to develop, eventually leading to the development of humans with brains that may be the most complex structure we know of, each with 100 billion neurons making 100 trillion connections. Right now, inside your skull, 100 billion neurons making 100 trillion connections. Wow. And don't forget to look down and look closely. We can deliberately cultivate awe. Mindfulness and intentionality can increase our experiences of awe. Slow down. Practice lingering without distraction. Reflect on the role of timing and luck. Unplug regularly, especially as our world expands again. This last photo was taken at Lake Eola when the first memorial for the Pulse victims was held about a week after the shootings. 50,000 people gathered together, and suddenly, with no rain present, this rainbow appeared above the lake. I wept and wondered, and my heart was bursting with love. Thank you.
made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous eyes and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down into the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? By Mary Oliver. The following short video contains a montage of photos from the past 2 to 3 years of flora, fauna, and landscapes in Florida. The vast majority from right here locally. Allow yourself to open up to these images, both vistas and close-ups of the wonders that surround us. Once again, please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing our closing song, The Rainbow Connection. Words will be on the screen.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee da da do, da 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 dee da da do.
For our benediction, I read you the words of Wendell Berry. When I rise up, let me rise up joyful like a bird. When I fall, let me fall without regret like a leaf.
Please join me in reading the words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.